Mara Quell first noticed the ocean in the wrong place when the sky lapped against the catwalk outside Hangar 12 and left silver flecks on her boots. The air should have been thin and brittle this high over Cloudforge's equatorial furnace, yet it pressed against her calves like warm surf. Every breath tasted of brine and ozone. Above her, where up used to be a translucent tide, was climbing, rolling over mooring towers and communication masts, blotting them from sight as if the heavens had decided to pour themselves downward. "Gravity well's blown a seal," Lieutenant Arjun reported, helmet mic crackling. "Instead of pinning the rebel archipelago, it's sucking half the lower atmosphere skyward. We've got a full-scale up-ocean forming." Mora shaded her eyes. Ferrite clouds that had once drifted miles below now formed a shimmering, mirror-bright sea overhead. The malfunctioning well had inverted the world. Down remained down, but a second horizon was swelling above, dense enough to swallow everything in between: airships, cities, lives. Command buzzed through her earpiece. "Iron Tide Squadron, scramble. Use the surge to approach Aegir Spire. Destroy or disable the Dominus coil before the up-ocean reaches it. In other words, surf the impossible." Mara jogged across the hangar. Her jetboard, Wyvern, hung from mag clamps, 3 meters of graviton lace and alloy fins, designed for close-orbit dogfights, not for riding an atmospheric tsunami. She stroked the edge anyway, grateful for its familiar hum. "You ever surfed an ocean made of sky?" Sergeant Riss laughed while checking her own board's fuel cells. Mara clicked her visor down. First time for everything. The launch shutters peeled open, revealing an expanse of amber clouds far below and the upside-down sea far above. White caps of condensed mist foamed around antennas. Somewhere inside that rising flood floated enemy cloud cities. Armored cumulonimbus fortresses, using the chaos to reposition artillery. Mara's job was to reach one, plant charges, and punch a hole big enough for the rest of the fleet to finish the fight. 5-meter swells of luminous vapor rolled closer, moaning against the station's superstructure. Ground crew evacuated. Sirens wailed, diving lower in pitch as pressure dropped. Then the tide hit. A wall of shimmering, liquid-looking sky washed over the deck. Gravity didn't flip, yet Mara felt suddenly light, as though the up-ocean stole a piece of her weight. She and her troopers kicked their boards off the deck just before it disappeared beneath the surge. Instant altitude vertigo seized her. Between her boots and the planet's molten surface yawned 70 kilometers of thinning air. Between her helmet and the stars roiled a brand new sea. The board's vector thrusters fired, lifting the squad into that upside-down expanse as if they were dolphins leaping into a reflected world. The experience blurred the senses. Viscous sky rushed around her suit, denser than normal air, scattering static sparks. Every breath through the rebreather tasted like rain about to fall, though the falling had reversed. She angled Wyvern along the up-ocean face. The surface tension, where low pressure met high, behaved like the skin of water. With enough speed, you could plane across it. She did more than plane. The board bit the boundary, leaving a contrail of ionized mist. The rest of Iron Tide followed, 20 jet troopers carving crescents against the liquid sky, gaining altitude by skimming its still-rising face. AI gyros compensated for micro-eddies, but balance remained a matter of intuition. Lean too far and you'd punch through, trapped inside the thick tide and dragged upward until your suit imploded. Mara's HUD painted ghostly outlines of cloud cities. The nearest, Aegir Spire, was a cathedral of carbon fiber struts and curtain walls, crowned with flak towers. Once the Dominion realized Iron Tide was using the gravity surge to reach them, they'd raise shields. She keyed squad comms. "Form 2 Lances, Arrowhead. Full burn on Surf Ridge. We breach North Hangar before they button up." "Aye, Captain," voices chorused. Jets roared. Jets roared. Jets roared. Prime further voices chorused. Jets roared. Jets roared behind. The station that had birthed them vanished beneath the up-ocean like a reef embraced by tide. Somewhere deeper in that maelstrom, engineers struggled to shut the weapon down. Mara had to buy them time. Tracer rounds stitched the fog ahead. Dominion patrol flyers banked out of concealed coves in the clouds, autocannons spitting tungsten. Mara ducked, boards skimming close to the viscous surface. Slugs sizzled into the tide, leaving whirlpools of glowing vapor. "Riss, break high, peel them," Mara ordered. "On it." The sergeant snapped her board perpendicular, shot up the wave's curvature, and vanished into the thicker layers. A heartbeat later, explosions popped like mortar shells as Riss dropped mines that detonated on proximity. 2 patrol craft spiraled, engines coughing flame before the upocean swallowed them whole. Iron Tide punched through the barrage, approaching Aegir's Spire's moat of storm cloud. The inverted sea here formed churning cliffs, ramming the city's lower gantries. Structures groaned. Dock pontoons tore loose and drifted upward like driftwood in reverse, drawn to the well's hungry core somewhere miles above. Dominion gunners pivoted turrets downward, paradox made real, to fire into what should have been empty sky below them. Black bursts peppered the troopers. Mara weaved, board-kicking spray that wasn't water. Shockwaves rattled her ribs. She spotted a translucent tunnel where wind shear tore a gap in the up-ocean, connecting open air to a maintenance balcony. Perfect breach point. "There!" She marked it for the squad. 3 troopers launched grapnel harpoons, cables snapped taut, and they slingshotted forward, pulling the rest through the corridor before the tide healed. Boots clanged onto alloy decking. Iron Tide crouched, boards folding into pack mode. Mara swept her rifle in arcs. No hostiles yet, just the groan of stressed girders and the deep hush of the sky sea sloshing against bulkheads. Inside the station, red emergency looms flickered. Grav plates trembled underfoot, confused by the shifting mass overhead. Mara's wrist display tracked the Dominion coil, a heart of stolen Terran tech, amplifying the gravity well. If they overloaded it here, the malfunction would stop feeding. The up-ocean would lose cohesion, drizzle harmlessly back into lower strata. Or it would rip the entire city apart. Acceptable trade-off. Cloudforge Command had authorized total neutralization. They advanced through maintenance corridors. Steam hissed from cracked vents, refracted by droplets that floated, then fell sideways. A technician rounded a corner, saw them, dropped the crate he carried, and bolted. Mara let him run. Their target lay downward. Down meant toward hangar core, yet they climbed stairs because orientation was fickle. The up-ocean's dense layer turned interior flow maps inside out. Her boots felt lighter, her stomach heavier. She clenched teeth, focusing on the mission. At the coil chamber, blast doors stood sealed. Riss rigged shaped charges. Mara monitored her microsat link. Outside, the inverted sea had crested above the spire's crown. Thunder boomed within it. If they waited too long, structural collapse would bury them in skyfall. "Fire in 3, Riss warned. Metal peeled open, smoke cleared, revealing the coil, a spiraling lattice the size of a shuttle, pulsing aquamarine. Dominion engineers worked consoles, shouting. Security troopers swung rifles round. Mara's squad fanned out, stun bolts hissing. She dove behind coolant tanks. A security trooper flanked her. She parried with rifle butt, stunned him. Arjun lobbed an EMP grenade. It detonated, frying control panels. The coil's pulse hiccuped, then surged brighter. Too bright. "Captain!" Engineer VAA, their embedded tech, sprinted forward, scanning readings. "If we blow it, the well could invert completely. City, us, everything, up into orbit." "Options?" "Reverse polarity, reground the field, but I need the remote key." He pointed to the primary console at the mezzanine, where a Dominion officer grappled with backups. Mara launched her wrist cable, hooked the balcony rail, and zipped upward. She vaulted over the railing, tackled the officer. They rolled. He clawed at a sidearm. She head-butted him through her visor. His mask cracked. She yanked the crystal key from his harness, tossed it down to Volette. Below, the coil howled, pulling loose objects into slow orbit. Rifle casings, bits of flooring, droplets of blood spiraled toward its core. Troopers anchored themselves with mag boots. Villet jammed the key home, fingers flying. Need 90 seconds. They didn't have 10. Overhead, superstructure snapped. A boulder of ferro-concrete peeled off, sucked toward the sky. The city was coming apart. Mara spoke into command channel. Iron tied to forge control. Coil containment compromised. Prepare for potential cataclysm. Static. Then Admiral Saito's calm voice. Understood. Buy what time you can. Mara cursed privately. Time came only in blood. Dominion reinforcements burst through auxiliary doors, plasma cutters glowing. Iron Tide formed a semicircle, trading fire. Mara dropped back to mezzanine railing, using its height to rake enemies. Each recoil jostled her footing. The coil's rogue gravity tried to lift her. Suddenly, Riss screamed. A stray round breached her suit. She went weightless, tumbling into the vortex. Mara grabbed a cable and leapt, hooking Riss's ankle seconds before the sergeant vanished into the coil. The strain yanked Mara's shoulder. Agony flared, but she anchored the line to railing. "Hold on!" she gasped. Riss's faceplate fogged with pain, yet she thumbed a grateful salute. Villet shouted, "Polarity reversing now!" A dull thunk reverberated. The coil's azure glow flipped to crimson, then faded to black. The artificial gravity well coughed, its unseen throat closing. Objects in orbit rattled free, raining down in clatters. The oppressive lift on Mara's body vanished, replaced by normal weight. But the sky ocean outside had mass. Mass that suddenly lacked the pull holding it up. "Collapse incoming!" Mara barked. "Exfil now!" Her squad slung boards across backs, sprinted. Sirens throughout the city changed pitch, wailing evacuation. Dominion troops, no longer interested in battle, fled alongside them. Emergency hatches opened onto an exterior catwalk. The inverted sea, robbed of support, had become a mountainous overhang of opaque vapor bulging outward. Cracks of lightning flickered within. Gravity reclaimed its authority, and the mass began to fall down toward the planet's true surface, through anything in its way. "Ride or die," Riss panted beside Mara. They tossed boards over the edge and jumped. Wind howled. The cataclysmic down ocean chased them, no longer an impossible tide but a legitimate planet-crushing waterfall. Mara's altimeter ticked insane numbers. The plummet would intersect Cloudforge's magma belt in minutes. She needed lateral distance, clear the city's footprint before debris came. She angled Wyvern sideways, engine screaming, nose slicing through thinner air layers. Fellow troopers formed a ragged skirmish line. Behind them, Aegir Spire disintegrated, its spires snapping like matchsticks, swallowed by thunderous deluge. Chunks of alloy fell with them, some overtaken by the vapor avalanche. Yet within chaos bloomed beauty. The collapsing ocean refracted sunlight into colossal rainbows, arcing from nowhere to everywhere. Mara saw reflections of her squad, skating along prisms of color, boards flicking vapor tails. They weren't out yet. Forge control crackled. "Captain Quell, residual gravity eddies destabilizing across hemisphere. Need you to mark safe trajectories for relief dropships. In other words, keep surfing." She switched visor to grav flux. The display overlaid vortices like whirlpools of purple fire. Navigate wrong, and you'd be pinned in a downdraft or tossed into orbit. She relayed paths to her squad, then to command, drawing corridors through turbulence. They dove through one funnel after another, descending thousands of meters. The roaring flood thinned, parted, became rain, then mist. Their suits' temperature gauges climbed. The deeper atmosphere glowed amber, heated by the planet's forge core. Breathe here without filters and your lungs would scorch. Dropships appeared below, ant-size at first, then larger, climbing to rendezvous. Mara guided them to relative calm. At last she cut primary thrusters, letting Wyvern belly against thickened air like a surfboard on lazy swell. Exhausted Iron Tide members drew alongside, some nursing wounds, all alive except for Corporal Dez, lost to flak inside the city. They formed a floating ring, boards linked. Mara opened external speakers. Ion tide. Mission accomplished. Coil neutralized. Up ocean collapsed. Cloudforge stands. Riss, pale but grinning, slapped her gauntlet. Next shore leave. Actual water beach, yeah? None of this upside-down nonsense. Deal. Dropship hatches, irised open. Medics winched troopers aboard. Mara lingered last, scanning the sky. What remained of the inverted ocean rained in distant curtains, feeding new storm cells that would lash the lower cities but spare them obliteration. She allowed herself one slow breath of mineral-rich air, brittle and alive. Inside the dropship, Admiral Saito's face greeted her on hollow panel. Captain Quell, status? Coil destroyed, gravity well offline. We estimate the Dominion's fleet lost 2 cities and most air superiority assets to their own web. Saito nodded grimly. And Cloudforger? Still forges. Good work. Debrief on flagship. Out! The link closed. Mara slumped into a crash seat. Helmet off, sweat soaked her hair. She glanced at her battered board strapped nearby. Bits of ocean residue gleaming. Fluid crystals still clung to its fins, evaporating. You keeping that as souvenir? Arjun asked. Proof the impossible can be written, she said. Arjun chuckled, wincing at busted ribs. You think they'll try it again? The Dominion, they love hubris. She gazed out the porthole. Far above, fractal remains of the inverted sea glittered like shattered mirrors. But next time, we'll ride it first. The journey to the flagship passed in silence, engines droning. When they docked, brass bands didn't play and no crowds waited. Cloudforge's war didn't allow leisure for Still, tech crews lined the bay, applauding as Iron Tide disembarked. Their eyes held the glow of those who just witnessed legends walking. Chief Engineer Cho intercepted Mara. Quell, your stunt gave us data. We think we can repurpose the gravity wells for terraforming once the war is done. Long as they don't create another sky ocean. Cho winked. If they do, we'll ask you to serve it. Mara shrugged. Send the requisition forms. I'll need a bigger board. Hours later, with wounds patched and reports filed, she sought the observation deck. Alone, she watched dusk smear violet across Cloudforge's endless cloud plains. Here and there, pockets of remaining up ocean still glittered, like lakes suspended in twilight, draining through holes torn by destruction. Gallant and terrible, the sight reminded her of scars on skin. Evidence of injury, but also of healing. Footsteps approached. Riss, shoulder sling and all, propped herself beside Mara. Can't sleep either? Riss asked. Not after a day like that. Riss followed her gaze. When I was inside that funnel, felt like standing on the ceiling of the universe. Thought, if I die now, at least I'll know what it's like to drown in stars. Weird, huh? Not weird, Mara said quietly. We all touched something impossible today. Hard to walk away and pretend gravity is simple again. Silence stretched, filled by the distant groan of reactors and the hush of filtered air. Below, Cloudforge smoldered with furnace storms, forging metals in atmospheric crucibles. Above, fragments of the failed weapons deluge shimmered, slowly joining natural weather patterns. Riss exhaled. Command will decorate you. Us, Mara corrected. Metals won't capture it. Riss's eyes reflected twilight seas. How do you put on ribbon, surfed an ocean of sky to save a world? Maybe you don't. Mara brushed hair behind her ear. Maybe you just remember the feel of it when gravity is normal, and the ground is solid, and people think limits are fixed. You remember there are tides we haven't met yet. Riss smiled faintly. You sound like a Phyllis. Mara laughed, surprised by warmth in her chest. Just a trooper who doesn't know which way's up anymore. They turned from the window when klaxons signaled shift change. Crews scurried through corridors, preparing for tomorrow's engagements. War never slept. Yet, as Mara headed back to barracks, she carried inside her the hush of that upside-down sea and the roar of boards slicing its mirrored face. Somewhere beyond the next dawn, Cloudforge would need defenders again. Against Dominion, against rogue wells, against whatever new impossible phenomenon rose from the forge winds. Ushan? When that time came, Iron Tide would answer. They had surfed the sky. The rest would be easy.